My mum kicked me out on Christmas after I paid all the bills for years. What happens when the person you sacrificed everything for decides you're disposable? For years, I paid the rent, the bills, and every grocery just to keep my mum afloat. I gave up weekends, comfort, and savings, believing I was helping family. But on Christmas night, after cooking dinner and trying to make the holiday peaceful, my mum looked me in the eye and told me to move out. That moment wasn't just about losing my home. It was about losing the illusion that sacrifice equals love. She twisted the truth, telling relatives I had abandoned her, while the reality was I had carried her for years. I became the villain in a story I had been holding together with my own effort and savings. This is a Reddit-style story about betrayal, family manipulation, and the painful but freeing moment you realize your worth. If you've ever been unappreciated, used, or betrayed by those closest to you, this story will feel painfully familiar. Subscribe for more Reddit stories, betrayals, and real-life dramas every week. I was 23 when I moved back into my mother's house. At the time, it didn't feel like moving back. It felt like stepping into a responsibility, almost like an unspoken contract written in invisible ink. She had just lost her job then. A layoff, she said, though in hindsight, I'm not sure if that was the whole truth. What I do remember is the way her voice cracked when she called me at work, asking if I could come by after my shift. I drove straight there. The living room lights were dim, the blinds half closed, and she sat on the couch in silence, staring at an unopened stack of envelopes on the coffee table. Bills, red ink warnings. The kind of letters that arrive before the power goes dark, before the landlord knocks. She didn't ask me directly. She never did. She just looked at me with tired eyes, and I understood. I had just started a steady ID job, nothing glamorous, but enough to pay my own rent at the small apartment I shared with a college friend. But compared to her, compared to the woman who had raised me, who had worked double shifts in grocery stores and diners so I could have new notebooks for school, I couldn't sit across from her and say no, so I moved in. At first, I thought it would be temporary, a few months, maybe half a year. I'd help her stabilize, cover the urgent bills, make sure the house didn't slip through her fingers. That's what I told myself. But months stretched into years, and somewhere in the blur of paychecks and grocery runs, it stopped being her house. It became ours, at least financially. I paid the rent. I paid the utilities. I paid for Wi-Fi, cable, and her streaming subscriptions. Groceries too. Every single expense passed through me, like I was a filter, turning my salary into her survival. I never complained. Not once. There was a part of me that even felt proud, like I was paying her back for everything she had done for me. I remembered the nights she came home bone-tired, but still asked about my homework. I remembered the winters, when she wore the same coat for 3 years straight so I could have a new one for school, so I rationalized it. This is my turn to give back, but giving back slowly became giving away. The first cracks showed in the little things. She started talking about her house again, correcting me when I said our place. She scolded me for leaving dishes in the sink, though half of them were hers. She complained about the Wi-Fi being too slow, as if I were the one throttling it instead of paying the bill every month. And then there were the guilt trips. You should be grateful to live under my roof, she said one night after I came home late from work. I wanted to argue I'm the one keeping the roof over our heads, but the words died in my throat. I brushed it off, like I always did. She was stressed. She was lonely. She was my mother, but the truth was harder. She had stopped seeing me as her son trying to help her. She had started seeing me as the intruder, the burden. Christmas dinner was supposed to be peaceful. That was the promise I clung to as I spent the entire day in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, phone timer buzzing every 20 minutes. I roasted the turkey just right, crispy on the outside, tender on the inside. I made the stuffing from scratch, the way Grandma used to, with fresh herbs and skewered onions. I even baked an apple pie, not because I loved pie, but because Mum did. The smell of cinnamon filled the house, mixing with the savory scent of roasted meat. For a brief moment, the air felt like home again. The dining table was set perfectly. Candles flickered. I poured wine into glasses, set out plates, and for once in years, I allowed myself the smallest hope that tonight, maybe, we'd feel like a family. We sat down. My sister, my cousin, my mother. Forks clinked softly against porcelain. For a moment, I thought maybe it would be okay, and then she did it. My mother carved into the turkey, took a bite, chewed, swallowed. Then she looked up at me, her face calm, her tone flat, like she was commenting on the weather. "You need to move out." The words fell like a stone into water, rippling through the room. At first, I thought I misheard. The fork froze halfway to my mouth. My sister's eyes went wide. My cousin, mid-chew, set his fork down. I blinked. "What? You need to move out," she repeated, reaching for her wine glass. Casual, emotionless. No warning. No build-up. Just a verdict dropped across the table like a gavel. I reminded her, my voice steady, though my hands shook under the table. "Mum, I pay the rent, the bills. I buy the groceries." "You haven't worked in years," she shrugged, sipping her wine. "I need my own space back, like I was a squatter. Like I hadn't been financing her roof, her heat, her food, her comfort for years." The silence after was unbearable. My sister stared at her plate. My cousin avoided my eyes. I sat there, heat rising in my chest, and for the first time I saw it clearly. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This wasn't stress talking. She meant it. She wanted me gone. I excused myself quietly. No shouting, no drama, just the sound of my chair sliding back as I stood. I walked to my room and shut the door, for as I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the half-packed suitcase in the corner, I tried to understand what had just happened. There wasn't even a fight. No argument, no incident. Just get out, her. Words echoed in my head all night. The next morning, while she slept off her wine, I zipped the suitcase. I grabbed my laptop, a backpack with essentials, and walked out. No note, no goodbye, no confrontation. Just silence. I half expected her to knock on my door, to ask where I was going, to say she didn't mean it. But she didn't. It was like she wanted me gone. When I closed that front door behind me on the morning after Christmas, the silence was louder than anything I'd ever heard. For years, every corner of that house had been filled with tension, her footsteps down the hall, her sighs, the clink of wine glasses. Now, standing outside with my suitcase, there was nothing. I didn't have a plan. No backup apartment, no savings set aside for emergencies like this. I had been pouring every paycheck into her house, but when I texted my friend Mason, telling him I needed a place to crash, his reply came back instantly. "Come over. Couch is yours." That night, lying on his sofa, the weight of it all hit me. Not the logistics, not where I'd live long term. What broke me was the realization that my mother hadn't even texted to ask if I was safe. Not one word. After years of sacrifice, I could vanish and she wouldn't notice. A few days later, I found a tiny studio apartment on the edge of town. It wasn't much. One room, creaky radiator, leaky faucet, but it was mine. No one to guilt me about dishes. No one to blame me for Wi-Fi problems. No passive-aggressive silences. Just peace. I started filling the space with small comforts, a second-hand couch, a coffee maker, a cheap rug. Each item felt like a step toward independence, a declaration that I was done being used, but peace didn't last long. One evening, my phone buzzed with a message from my younger sister. Just 6 words. "You won't believe what Mum is saying." I called her immediately, my chest tight. She hesitated, then sighed. "She's telling everyone you abandoned her, that you screamed at her on Christmas, stormed out, left her with nothing. She's crying to the aunts, saying you're selfish, that you broke her heart." I sat there stunned, gripping the phone. My own mother had not only pushed me out, she was rewriting the story, painting me as the villain. And it was working. Within days, I noticed the fallout. An uncle unfollowed me on Instagram. A cousin removed me from a group chat. One aunt sent Mum meals, telling her how strong she was for surviving such an ungrateful son. Ungrateful. The word burned after. Everything I had paid for after years of carrying the household, she had managed to twist it until I looked like the traitor. For a while, I stayed silent. I didn't want to air family drama in public. I didn't want to sink to her level. But as the days dragged on, the weight of her lies crushed me. I realized something. Silence wasn't protecting me, it was destroying me, so I broke it, not with a fight, not with insults. With the truth. I sat down one night and wrote a long post. Not angry, not cruel, just detailed, honest, factual. I wrote about how I had paid the bills, covered groceries, kept the roof over our heads. How, on Christmas night, after serving her the dinner I cooked, she told me to move out. I didn't attack her. I didn't call her names. I just laid out the facts and let them speak for themselves. Then I posted it and I logged off. I didn't look at my phone for the rest of the night after posting. Honestly, I was scared. I didn't want to see whether people believed me or if they were already too far gone, too deep into her version of events, but the next morning, curiosity. 1. When I opened my phone, the notifications were endless. Comments, messages, missed calls. The first one I opened was from Aunt Lisa, the only rational one in the family. Her message stopped me cold. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have believed her without hearing your side. Your post opened my eyes. If you ever need anything, my door is open. I didn't realize how badly I needed those words until I saw them. More messages followed. Some cousins apologized. Others didn't say anything but started liking my post's silent admissions that they'd been wrong. My cousin Caleb sent a private message. We always knew something was off about how your mum treated you. For the first time in years, I felt seen, but not everyone reacted with compassion. The next morning, my phone exploded again, this time with texts from Mum. At first, they were guilt trips. I can't believe you'd humiliate me like this. Then came the anger. You twisted everything. You chose to leave. And finally, the classic fallback, after all I've done for you. That last line made me laugh, bitter and tired. After all, she'd done nothing but take. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Weeks passed. Slowly, the dust settled. I poured my energy into making my new apartment a home. I bought a small table, some curtains, a shelf for books I'd been meaning to read. For the first time, I could breathe in my own space. No eggshells, no tension, just freedom. Then one afternoon, my younger sister reached out. She looked tired, older somehow. We met at a CAF-owned town, and after some awkward small talk, she finally told me the true things had gotten worse. Without my money, Mum was missing rent. The power had even been shut off once. She was blaming me to anyone who would listen, saying I'd ruined her life. But then my sister leaned across the table and whispered words that broke me more than anything my mother had said. You did the right thing by leaving. You should have left sooner. I sat there, stunned. And then, for the first time in years, I felt a strange kind of relief, because if she, the only other person who had lived in that house, saw it too, then maybe I wasn't crazy. I promised her I'd support her whenever she was ready to leave too. Not financially, I couldn't afford that again, but emotionally, she wouldn't face it alone. A few days later, I heard a knock at my door. It was Mum. She stood there, holding a store-bought pie, forcing a smile, like the past months hadn't happened. I stepped into the hallway, closing the door behind me. She started with pleasantries. I miss you. Things aren't the same. Maybe we could have dinner. I asked her directly, did you come to apologize? She hesitated, then said, I don't think I need to. We both made mistakes. That was it. That was the final nail. I shook my head, told her I wished her well, and closed the door. No shouting, no slamming, just finality, because in that moment, I realized something important. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. Months later, I looked around my apartment. It was small, cluttered, imperfect, but it was mine. I saw my sister often. She was making plans to leave too. She was strong, stronger than she knew, and me, for the first time, I was living for myself. No guilt, no manipulation, no strings. The betrayal hadn't destroyed me. It had freed me. Maybe this is the last time we meet. That's why I truly recommend you subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed the story.